This is a bit of a tricky bit, getting these brackets installed. Well, that first one should be fairly easy. Oh, that's a good moment. I feel like I'm on a bit of a roll. I imagine there's people who think, what's the point in leaving a comment? I really like interacting with all of you. So I'd just like to send a thank you shout out, Brad from Canada. It means that I can press on with the saloon tops. Those tanks are not going anywhere. And the last thing to mention just now is that before I can put the cabin sole panels down in the saloon area here, what I need to do is actually get all of these water tank brackets fitted, because to fit them I need to be able to get my hands under where the cabin sole is and get bolts through, etc., which you'll see coming ahead. Well, this is a bit of a tricky bit, getting these brackets installed. On the one hand, it's a bit of a conundrum actually, because basically once they're in place, everything will be lining up beautifully, but in order to get them in, because the tanks need to be in place and because of the way in which I wanted to hide these brackets by putting them down on the inside behind the bulkhead. So the challenge is this: in order to get the bolt through to pass through the bracket and then the bulkhead at the bottom, the tank needs to be up so that the bolt can go through. But because of that cleat being welded onto the top, if the bracket is passed down behind the bulkhead, but the tank is lifted up, that cleat will be touching on the tank, which means it'll be raised the height that the tank is raised. So what it means is This bracket needs to be down at the right height for the bolt to pass through, but the bolt can't be passed through unless the tank is lifted up. So a little bit of a challenge, and the way out of it really is that I need to move these tanks and just sort of shift them both back and up so that they creep up the frames. That will allow me to keep that bracket at the right height and then be able to pass a bolt through the bottom. I anticipate this is going to be a bit of a workout, but let's get into it. Well, that first one should be fairly easy. Surprise, surprise. I was able to lift the tank out, as you can see. Just got a wedge in there holding that out, and so I'll be able to get the bracket down there, pass that bolt through, and that one is going to be marked off as easy. Let's see how the others go. That's a good moment. That was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Happiness! I feel like I'm on a bit of a roll. Things are going my way, which is so nice. Those brackets went in without too much fuss. I was surprised. So now the only thing left to do to finish off bolting all of these bulkheads up, including the brackets, is that I've got these lovely 316 stainless steel dome nuts. And so what I'll be doing is, because those bolts point inwards, I just want to put those nice rounded nuts over those bolts to prevent somebody being scratched by the bolts poking through, but also because obviously that's going to look nicer as well. That'll just finish those bolts off, I think, nicely. Now, in order to do that, those bolts are just a little bit too long where they don't pass through the brackets. So that means 2 of the bolts on each side just need to be trimmed off a bit. So I'll work out the length, trim them off, clean up the bolt, put some Loctite on those threads, and then nip them up, and they're done. And the arrangement of tying these water tanks down the way that I've come up with this steel angle and flat bar, has worked out really well. That's going to be very strong. This one here doesn't quite line up. That's not a big deal. The problem is, where I've welded up here, there's just a bit of weld between these 2 bits, bit of a weld there. I just need to grind that off. That will allow this to shift in underneath that cleat. So that's going to work out well. This one just needs the hole drilled. Same with the port tank side. This port tank one fits nicely on top of that cleat, so that'll need a hole drilled through the top of that plate. Bolt through there, that will fix that. And by comparison, with the other cleats where the bolts actually pass from the inside out. So you've only got the bolt heads there and they won't cause any problems like that. almost last thing that I need to do before I can actually fit these brackets is just drill a hole in this frame and one in the port side as well. I will affix some insertion rubber on the underside, and you might be able to notice the cobweb of rope up here just holding the foam out of the way, just so that I can have a free access there. It's annoying when you've got things like that you're trying to hold out with one arm and you need the other hand to do the work. To all of those people who leave comments and have commented on my videos, just to say again, I really do appreciate that. As I always say, it's really nice to get the interaction and the feedback, and there are lots of things that I pick up from all of you people leaving your comments. I imagine there's people who think, what's the point in leaving a comment? Who really cares? Who even reads them? I can tell you that I definitely read all of the comments, and I'm sure as people who do comment would testify, I pretty much answer to every comment left. I really like interacting with all of you, so feel free to leave comments and don't underestimate your comments, because lots of comments have been very helpful to me. So from last week's video, and thank you to everybody who watched it and left a like, I really appreciate that. And there were quite a few comments that were asking, so what next? And so to answer that question, the plan will be to make the tops for these tanks, which will involve some bearers along the way. And then at the same time, I'm going to be making up the bed base for the single berth in cabin 3, and also the main panel, which will separate cabin 2, 3 and the lazarette. So I'd just like to send a thank you shout out to the very kind Brad from Canada. Not only is Brad a patron, he's also sent me some kindness this week in the way of some PayPal.me beer fund. Look, I really appreciate that, Brad. Thanks very much for that. I did get a carton. We don't have a lot of access to Canadian beer here, but I'm sure you'll recognise that label. I'm looking forward to trying it at the end of today. I just thought I'd film this to say thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to just mention my Patreon account. For those who haven't had a look, I'd encourage you to have a look. If you'd like to get more involved and have more of an exchange with me about the project and get access to things that patrons can get access to that others can't, then please take a look. And if you'd like to get involved and contribute, there's a whole range of options there. That would be immensely appreciated, which will all obviously help with Mistress's project. Thanks to all of my patrons at the moment and other really involved patrons like Franz living in the United States. Thanks very much to those who have forwarded some donations to the PayPal.me fund over the last 12 months. I really do appreciate your ongoing support. It means a heck of a lot and definitely helps. And just to mention a thanks to all those people that commented with last week's video, and I've now got sheets underneath the cardboard, as many people commented. Dust and dirt act like a bit of an abrasive paper and scratch whatever's under it, and obviously I don't want to get these beautiful panels scuffed and scratched up. So thanks very much to you people that commented. So the last thing to do is just to roughen up both surfaces of the angle iron here as well as the insertion rubber. Use the trusty Fix 15 to bond those together and put them in place and then bolt them up. And I'm so looking forward to this, because what it means is once the tanks now get these brackets to hold them down, I can continue with putting the tops on and getting all of that finished. is so strong, you just cannot move any of it. Those tanks are not going anywhere. It feels fantastic to be on a good and productive boatwork roll, everybody. Even having that one template in place is so exciting. I hope that you can join me in the next video. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell and share. I'd really appreciate that.